Welcome to the Elite BSC podcast, where our entire focus is helping commercial janitorial contractors succeed. You want a growing company, a thriving team, and healthy profits, and we are here to help. My name is Jordan Tong. I'm the founder of Elite BSC, a company dedicated to helping janitorial companies grow and thrive. I also serve as CEO and one of the owners of France Building Services. France is a janitorial company employing nearly 600 people. Since 2007, we grew from 1.5 million to more than 20 million in annual revenue and built what I think is one of the best teams in the world. The goal of Elite BSC in this podcast is to give owners in the industry a vision of where their company can be and the information and tools to get there. I want to share what I have learned over the years to make this a reality for you. Hey guys, Jordan here, your host of the Elite BSC podcast. Our goal here is always to provide owners and leaders in the janitorial industry with resources and content that will help the small business owners in our industry be able to grow and give their teams knowledge and information and encouragement to be able to push your company to the next level and really do something special for your business, your families, and perhaps for the industry. That's what we're all about here, and we love it. That's what I do every single day. In addition to being an owner of a cleaning company, this is primarily what I do here now, all the stuff Elite. So one more thing here before I go over this topic that we're going to talk about of single coverage accounts. We are hosting our first ever Elite BSC conference. So in the past, over the last, 3-4 years, we've done multiple workshops, which are essentially like little mini events that, can host between 30 and 40 people have typically come. And we take a deep dive into a topic like sales or bidding and estimating or building an operations system. We did an HR one at one time. So that's sort of what those have looked like in the past, and they've been a lot of fun. And I think one of the things that we enjoyed about those is that it was a small, bit more intimate setting. There was some time to hang out, and it was really hyper focused. It was a short event. It was like a 2-day event basically, with a day and a half of content and then a little bit of hangout time. And so over time we did several topics multiple times, and we're wanting to try something a bit different that's going to allow us to serve a little bit bigger audience. And so, one of the challenges that we see with educating your team is often it's really expensive to go to some of the big conferences. So, for instance, the ISSA, BSCI show is in Las Vegas. It can just be expensive to take your team there. And there's so much going on there, and it can feel a bit impersonal. I mean, we go, and I think you should go. If you can, I think you should. But we're trying to create a little bit shorter, more cost-effective option for people who are looking to bring their team with kind of the main purpose of giving them good content. So that's sort of our aim here is I guess twofold. One is that the content will be really helpful for you and your key leaders, and number two, this would be a cost-effective or a cost-conscious event for those of you that are concerned with that. So the conference is going to be in October of this year, October 6th through the 8th. We'll have a reception on the night of the 6th. And then the next day and a half, we'll be delivering content. And it's actually aimed at owners and key leaders. So, key people in operations, sales, HR, finance, admin, that sort of thing. And so I think we're going to have like 7 or 8 sessions total. And that there'll be either 3 or 4 options to pick from in the sessions. And so we're working on curating our speakers for that. We're developing the topics ourselves. So we're not just doing like a random call for speakers. We're sort of setting the agenda, making sure we cover certain things like we want. We'll be doing some of the speaking ourselves and or moderating discussions between 2 or 3 people. So hoping to be, again, very content-oriented so that the content is going to be high level for those of you that attend. So we hope to see you there. If you are interested in learning more about that, there's a bunch of information on our website, elitebsc.com, and I think it's elitebsc.com/conference. But if you look under the Member Resources tab, you'll be able to see or find the conference there with a list of some of the speakers, which are mostly finalized, along with the rough content outline and some of the details there. So I think early registration maybe ends at the end of August, and so check that out for you and your team. We'd love to see you there. Okay, shifting gears, I wanted to talk for a few minutes today about a question that's kind of related to why we might say no to certain accounts. So, over time, our company has been asking the question, what's the ideal customer for us, and why do we say no to certain customers? And, as we do marketing work for other janitorial contractors, it's one of the questions we're asking, like, hey, who do you want to work for? Who do you not want to work for? What kinds of accounts do you want? Which kinds of accounts do you not want? And so there's obviously a handful of reasons or why we might want one account and not another, or a handful of accounts that work well and another handful that are not ideal for us. Some of those are vertical market segment related things. So for instance, a lot of us don't like retail. We don't like, and one of the primary reasons we don't like retail is because of the hours and sort of the type of work that it involves. It's a strain on our operations often if we try to incorporate that into what we do, which is why you typically see companies that do retail, that's primarily what they do. And so over time, one of the things that has been on the forefront, or it's constantly been developing for us over the years, is our minimum account size. And so I remember when I first started here in 2007, I think we had a minimum account size of $750. And then it slowly started to increase over time, $1,000, $1,500, $2,000, $3,000. And while I don't know that we have an absolute hard cutoff, we're looking for stuff that's like $7,000, $8,000 a month on up now. And part of the reason, and I've talked about this on this podcast before, part of the reason for this desire for bigger accounts is that we feel like we're able to do a better job of managing these accounts. Our managers are not spread out so much. They're not spread so thin geographically. I would rather have fewer customers for a given amount of revenue than a lot of customers. So for instance, I'd rather have 10 customers that give me $100,000 a month in revenue as opposed to 30 customers that give me $100,000 in revenue. To me, it's easier for the manager to manage those 10 for a few reasons. And one of those is just the sheer number of customer contacts you have to engage with, the sheer number of complaint sources that you have to reckon with. And so we found that to certainly be the case. It's as you're starting to grow and maintain a certain kind of growth rate over time, it's hard to do that with smaller accounts. So that's one of the reasons. But probably next to the manager reason, probably one of the biggest reasons that has caused us to think about what our minimum account is the idea of single coverage. And so what we have often found is that these accounts that are smaller, and while this is not always the case, so this is certainly not across the board, one of the biggest challenges, I think, is any account that has single coverage or single layer coverage is what we call it. So where you have an entire shift where there is only one person on your team there on that shift. And that could be, for instance, and I've seen accounts and we've serviced them before, and I don't think we would anymore, where there was one full-time person on first shift, one full-time person on second, one full-time person on third. And so there's not any built-in in an account like that. So maybe it's just one full-time person on first shift, or maybe you have a full-time person on each shift or something of that sort. It's not that that account is particularly difficult in and of itself in terms of the work to be done, and it may even be good revenue. But the problem with it is that it is always a recipe for creating crisis among your management team. So anytime there's a hiccup there and somebody can't be there, or we lose an employee, we found that it was just throwing our managers into a little bit of a tailspin because they had to all of a sudden deal with this problem. There was not any built-in cushion on the job. And sometimes you can avoid this. Sometimes you can go into an account and you can split up the thing, and instead of one 8-hour person, you can make it, 3 3-hour people or 2 4-hour people or something of that sort, where you have some cushion built in, where you can get by for a week, for instance, if you lost an employee. Now, you may not be doing a great job that week if you can't get someone to fill in, but it's really difficult to find a temporary person to fill in a full 8-hour shift. Like, it's just really difficult. And what ended up happening is our managers would end up out in the field having to be cleaning or filling in or scrambling to try to fill these spots. And it just created a lot of headache for us. And so as we started thinking about what kinds of accounts that we want, sort of lumped in with that minimum account size is the idea of we don't want single coverage accounts. So even if an account got above, let's say there was a single coverage account where the customer requested a full-time person on first, full-time person on second, full-time person on third shift. And let's say that account was good, like it paid good and everything. Let's say it was like, $12,000, $10,000 a year, a month, or $11,000 a month, which would be a good size account. But I think that account would create massive headaches for our operations team for a couple of reasons. One is it works around the clock. And for managers who are designed primarily to handle accounts that are, all on first shift or all on second shift, it creates a little bit of an odd scenario where they've got something going on all hours of the day for a particular account that they're responsible for. And whereas, we have some accounts that are much larger accounts that have people working on multiple shifts, but there's one manager dedicated to that particular site that is running that piece of it. And so there's a little bit of strain there for that manager at times, but it's not like an area manager managing multiple accounts with some of them having odd and crazy hours and these single coverage shifts. So we just, I would take a $7,000 a month account over a $12,000 a month account if the $7,000 a month one had built-in cushion in the operation, because it's going to let my management team do a better job managing that account, and it's going to create less fires and headaches for us. So, as you're thinking about what is good in terms of an ideal client profile, one of the things maybe to shift our thinking a little bit here is that we should think of this often in terms of what is our operation designed to serve really well? What sort of cuts with the grain for us operationally? And what types of accounts do? And let's try to target and service those kinds of accounts that we are good at. So if you go way outside your lane or try to do something you're not necessarily geared up to do, it creates a decent amount of pressure on the system that is your operation. And can really, sometimes the pressure cooker can get so high that it will break. And that's what we want to not happen. We want our managers to not feel stretched thin. And that can be a difficult job to staff and keep good people in. And so limiting single coverage accounts, I think, is one way that we can better serve our managers and generate less fires in the business, which will allow us to spend more time doing the things that we're good at and serving our customers with maybe a higher level of excellence than if we're being pulled all over the place because of all the urgent fires that are going on due to single coverage accounts, for instance. So anyway, I hope this puts a little stone in your shoe to think about accounts, these single coverage accounts, whether or not they fit into your system, and let that maybe be something that the sales folks are working through as they're looking for new jobs, or maybe as they're negotiating jobs, to be able to try to avoid this sort of setup that's going to create problems for your team. So hope this is helpful. We have tons of resources at leadbsc.com. If you're not part of our group, you should check that out. We've got a cohort of 150 people that are having discussions like this one all the time regularly via our Basecamp forum, and we'll give you more content like this. So always you can reach out to me, Jordan at elitebsc.com, and we'll see you next time. If you found the information in this podcast helpful, please like and subscribe on whatever podcast platform that you're using. If you would like more resources or help to grow your cleaning company, head over to elitebsc.com. We have loads of articles, videos, free tools, coaching options, and a lot more. If your company is greater than $500K in revenue and you want to take your learning experience to the next level, check out our mastermind group. You can learn more about that at elitebsc.com/mastermind.